Welcome to the Soul Revolution Tribe podcast, where we share stories, laughs, and even a few tears, but always a good time. We are about depth and real raw sharing through soul conversations and medicine. We are learning to find ourselves again and to be an unstoppable force of nature, ready to break down the constructs and rebuild them with love and acceptance at its core. We are the new world. Welcome back to the podcast. Today I have Rebecca with us, and she is an Akashic records and tarot reader, teacher, and mentor. She guides you through your Saturn return and spiritual awakening by unlocking your greatest potential. And I'm so excited. You are so full of wisdom and just a beautiful soul, and I cannot wait to share you with the tribe.
Thank you. Right back to you.
First, let's share about what a Saturn return is for people that don't know, just so then they have a little more depth and understanding of what you do.
Yes. So the reason that I say that I bring up Saturn returns, and I'm not an astrologer, I experienced my first spiritual awakening when I was about 27, 28. And which then just, it doesn't just happen and then it's over. Like, we kind of want it to be sometimes. It's like, it's just the beginning. It's not
like a doorway. That's how I look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's literally just cracked open. I remember thinking like, oh, you just have one spiritual awakening and whew, got that out of the way. And then I had another one and I was like, that first one wasn't even one compared to this one. But Saturn return is typically around the age of 30. 60 and 90 is like the full Saturn return, and then there's all transitions in between. But typically around that age, people tend to think, oh, I'm leaving my 20s and I'm going into my 30s, and that's why I'm questioning everything. But actually, what I know to be true for myself and for lots of other people is that you are actually going through your Saturn return, which is a death and a rebirth.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
A lot of people will come out of long-term relationships. A lot of people will change career. A lot of people will go traveling, and a lot of people will just question their life because it's really calling you to be your most truest, authentic self. Mm-hmm. And up until that point, a lot of the time we've picked up really bad coping mechanisms. Like for me, it was alcohol. I really thought I was very extroverted, but I'm not. I'm almost like an introverted extrovert.
Me too.
So I was so it's like, if I'm around the right people, then I'm very extroverted, but I can't be just on all the time. Whereas before, in my 20s and my teenage years, when I was a child, I was wearing all these different masks and I was trying to be someone that I thought other people wanted me to be. And then Saturn return hit me and it was just boom, crumbled everything. And then
it's like a layer of your truth is shown to you, and then once you see it, you can't unsee it, and like the walls start coming down, the masks start coming off, and you're like looking at them all and you're like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah, it's like the tower moment in the tarot deck. It's literally like the foundations are not genuine, and everything you've built. And that's not to say for everyone, because a lot of people will have a spiritual awakening a lot earlier. Some people will have it later. It's not for everyone. It's just, something I experienced, and something that just a lot of people come to me and I'll be like, how old are you? And they're like, say what age they are. And it's usually before, during, or just after the time of like a Saturn return, which can tend to be like maybe 4 to 3 years long. Absolutely. And I'm like, oh, okay, I know what's going on.
It's almost like
it's a double whammy.
It's like in those transitional points energetically, it's like the shaking to see how your foundation is built. Like, so if you haven't been living true and like genuine to who you truly are, that's when the things start crumbling. But if you have the right foundational pieces in place, it's not that those are going to shake off. It's those will be the unwavering pieces, but anything that we've picked up that isn't ours, any conditioning and things, it like shows those parts to you. And I can resonate
that's a
with
way
that
better
too.
way of putting it. Because anything that's genuine and true, like I did have certain things that were genuine and true, and they stayed the same. It wasn't like everything changed in my life, but the things that really I was pretending or manipulating or just winging it with something, just really had no idea what I was doing, or it just wasn't right for me. It wasn't the right path for me. But I couldn't see that at the time. And then this just lightning strike came in, boom. And then I was like, oh, and then you question everything because you're like, well, then who am I?
Yeah.
Because that's what you're
That's what I had
questioning.
left.
What,
Like this was my identity. And now that
yeah,
it's shown that this is not me, I have to start all over.
yeah, exactly. And it's, I'm not going to lie, it can be very exhausting trying to figure out who you are when you had no idea. And you had no idea that you had no idea that who you were, So I was like, I remember when I first had my glimmers of my spiritual awakening, I thought, I don't have any trauma. Like, whatever, I don't have any trauma. And like,
Life's
I
good.
still haven't even uncovered all of my trauma because I didn't even want to face it. I wouldn't allow myself to see it for so long.
Your body
And
is so smart. It's like you're not ready for that. You are not ready to open that
yeah,
can of worms, sister. Like
yeah, Pandora's box. It was like, keep that shut. So, for me, my main coping mechanism was alcohol because when I was a child, I had anxiety and depression, but I didn't know I had anxiety and depression. I just thought I was like a troublesome person. And I started drinking when I was 13. So, like, imagine from, such a young age then thinking that the real you is you who has alcohol, who's then confident and funny and
yeah.
outgoing and all of the things that
And
I
that's what
wanted
you
people to
crave
think
because
that I
that's
was.
when you get the attention and the
Yeah,
focus and you're
yeah,
you're allowed to not hold like for me, I didn't start at a young age, but when I did, I abused that medicine. I did
yeah,
because
yeah,
then it was like this, I didn't even know who I was. I lived
yeah,
very sheltered, but loved life. Like it's not that I have a bad childhood by any means. But when I did get introduced to that world, it's kind of like I overdid it because I was like, okay, I use it to numb myself, but feel at the same time. It was weird. It was
yeah.
like I
Same.
would numb myself out. So I'm like, oh, I'm in so much stress, whatever. I'm just gonna have some wine with
Yeah,
the
numb
girls or
that part.
whatever. Yep. And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden, like you get to the point that like you can't, the floodgates open. And then when you're in
Mm.
that safe space with those people, then I would get super emotional and I would just be a hot
Yes,
mess.
I was literally just going to say that. I would cry and I would break down and then I'd be really embarrassed because I'd be like, oh my God, what did I say? And it's in only recently that I've been, so for astrologically, my sun sign is Libra and my moon and my rising are both Capricorn. And I was looking into my rising and my moon because I find it really fascinating because I really rejected the Capricorn for a really long time because I was really messy. I had no direction. I didn't know who I was. I lacked a lot of confidence. I didn't know if I wanted a family. I didn't know any of these things about myself. And then recently reading about it, I was like, oh, like all of the things that it's describing really is who I am now.
Mhm.
But who I was before just wasn't who I was. So
Yep.
I really have gotten to know myself in this time. But I really, for a really long time, I based who I was off of who she was when she was drinking and getting the
Yep.
validation, and that was her good time.
To be
So I
accepted
was
of
like,
what
well, yeah,
everyone
I
else
do like a
expected.
drink,
Yeah.
yeah, and actually, no, I don't, but I thought I did because that was my only way to have fun,
To feel loved. Like,
to
even though
feel loved,
like it was a
yeah, and
tainted view of
validated,
love. Like that's what I thought love
yeah.
was at
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
time.
And not to feel anxious because it took away my anxiety.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and for me, when I look at like my depressed states and my anxious states, a lot of the times it was like my soul reminding me, like, hey, come back home. You are not connected to your truth. You're
Yeah.
living for other people. And it was like that
Yeah.
whisper, but then the energetics, like I was just like, I don't know what's going on for me. So the
Yeah.
more I connect with myself and the more I allow my like soul expression to come through, I find that that's when the anxiety and everything melts away.
Yeah.
And it's a healing
Yeah.
journey. It never ends. Like, I still have anxious moments. We were just talking about this at the call. Like,
Yeah.
when we
Yeah.
started
Same.
this, like, I still
Yeah.
have those moments, but it's just reminding myself that, like, I can't mess up. Like, I literally can't
Yeah.
mess
Yeah.
up.
There's no right or wrong. It's not about that. Yeah. Because I did always used to think that too. I was like, all right, what's the right way to do this? And it was very black and white. Things were very black and white. And yeah, just even like when a time when I often get to talk about it is in podcasts
Mhm.
with people, or like lives and stuff when we're talking about our stories and our journeys. And it's really nice to actually reflect upon it, because the more awareness I've gotten over the years, the more I see like, wow, like that wasn't who I was at all. That just, and I tortured myself for such a long time. I had so much guilt and shame. And once I let that go, it was just so freeing. And now I can look back at that version of myself and just see that she was in pain. It wasn't, I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I wasn't even necessarily trying to hurt myself. I was just trying to
We
feel
did the
loved,
best with what we had at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I look back and I'm like, that part of me just needed to be loved, to know
Yeah.
that it's okay to be yourself, that the
Yeah.
right people will come when you are. And like, that's the thing that I've learned. The more I'm connected with myself, the more people like you come into my life, where that get,
Yeah.
and I don't have to be anyone else. I
Yeah.
can be my quirky, weird self,
Yeah.
and I'm loved. And
Yeah.
I am loved for who I was, who I am now, and who I'm going to
Yeah.
be. And there's no
Yeah.
changing that. And those are the type of people you want in your corner.
Yeah. And those are the people that I need in my life. And when I don't have those people in my life, I really can feel it and I can sense it. But at the same time, I guess I still maybe have some, I guess it's the rejection of like, oh no, like because it's the fear of like being yourself, it's the fear of, yeah, but then they're going to reject me for who I actually am.
Yeah. What if I'm
Oh
not,
no,
what if
let
like
me,
the deep core wound of,
yeah,
but what if I'm not enough? Like, I know
yeah,
I'm amazing and the way that my creator designed me. What if I'm not enough because I do care so much about them? Like, those are the thoughts
yeah,
that still roll in my head sometimes, that I realize those are deep core wounds. And it's not only just
yeah,
my wounds. If you think about it, that's ancestral wounds, that's generational, like that is like
yeah,
collective. That's a
yes,
collective energy. So
yeah,
people, like, you can't beat up on yourself. And people don't think, like, I always come across this with clients and things, and even myself at moments of where like, I've healed this. It should be gone. Like, everything should be perfect. No, 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 honey. Like,
yeah,
you're going around the spiral and
yeah.
it's gonna keep
It's a
coming back.
spiral, not a
It's
straight
not a one and
line.
done thing. Like, that's not real life.
Yeah, and if you think that, so you're so right there. And I often think about this because having read a lot about I guess like our primal brain and stuff like that, it's like we want connection and we're so afraid that if we're rejected, that it's actually a life of matter or death, a matter of life or death,
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, if I'm rejected by the tribe, then I have to fend for myself. But like that's not the world, that the reality that we live in
Yeah.
now.
In the
But we
realistic
still like
world.
on a emotional level feel like that, like,
Well, we were
I've
designed
had
to
so much
be together.
heartbreak.
We were not
Yeah,
designed to be isolated. Like, that is a
yeah,
crucial part, that socialization, that connection piece. Like, we that's a part that I think society in general has lost track of. Like, we were supposed to be connected to nature, with everything
yeah,
around us, with each other, with ourselves, with our creator. Like, connection is the base of who human beings are. And
yeah,
keep separating ourselves from those pieces, and that's where you get a lot more of this anxious, depressed feeling, is because you're cutting a part of yourself off, because everything
yeah,
around you is you as well, and everything you
yeah,
see is mirror
yeah,
images of you, because, as they say, as what's in, so without. So when you get
yeah,
triggered and you're like, I can't stand that girl, she did blah 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 blah, you have to stop and grace yourself, going,
yeah,
okay, so what inside of me is mirroring out right now? And that's why it's triggering me so much. Because
yeah,
you notice that as you heal, like, certain things that would drive you absolutely crazy in your past, you don't have a charge to it anymore, because
yeah. I
you
love it when that happens.
yeah, you've nurtured and heard and felt and held space for that piece, for it to actually not have that charge anymore. Like, it's not the memory
Yeah,
never goes away, but it's the emotional charge, the lens that you look through it
Yeah, and your perspective changes. You're like, oh, I'm not going to let that bother me anymore. And that's probably one of my main goals in life, is just going through to be as unbothered by things as possible, because at the end of the day, it's just a distraction. And I was someone who, and I can be very highly strung. I can be. It's a Capricorn, but I that's sort of my goal. And I can react to things in quite an extreme way emotionally sometimes. But what is good that's happening now is that I'll catch myself,
Yes.
and then I'll be the observer instead of getting swept up inside of it. So it's like, okay, I'm feeling like this.
Like, people need to realize it's once you're on the healing path, it's not that you're not going to feel, you're not going to have intense emotion. Emotion is going to be there. Emotion serves us. But when we have it, what you just said, you stop and observe and go, huh, all of a sudden I got really angry.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to allow myself space to feel that anger, because it gets expressed in a healthy way. And then I get to lean in and figure out, so what is actually under it? What this situation was the cherry on the top, but what is actually under this anger?
Yeah.
What's going on? And that piece, I think that awareness and that love and that grace, the grace for others and yourself. And I always get like weird looks because I like celebrate when I get triggered. People,
yeah, so
like,
do
they're
I
like,
now.
I'm like evolution. Like, okay,
yeah,
let's play with this. This is what's happening. Like, it's came to me at this moment because I'm ready now. Because that's the thing is like, it's my body is saying, okay, you can deal with this now. Like, you're in a space.
You're allowed to see this. You can have this. Yeah.
And so it brings it up. And sometimes we bottle it down because we think that we're not ready and we don't have the time or space for it. So we just keep bottling and bottling and bottling until physically we start breaking down, or something that slows us down, or we get ill to slow us down. So we have no choice but to deal with it.
Yeah. And that's what I say to my clients as well. I'm like, this is a good thing when you have a reaction and you realize it, it's like, instead of being mad about it, be happy, because be like, oh wow, thank you for showing me this. Now I can see it. Now I can move through it, rather than it's happening and I'm not able to see it.
Well, and if you look at it, it's like you already crossed the first hurdle because we numb ourselves out. So when you're starting to feel like you're feeling the emotions, you're feeling again.
Yeah.
So you've already crossed the one hurdle. So then you can actually feel, and then you can figure it, because emotions are layered. So just because you feel angry doesn't mean that anger is the primary energy that is going on. A lot of people, they feel safer feeling anger than they do sadness. So they'll cover their sadness or grief or shame with a different emotion that feels more acceptable through their childhood and whatever they ingrained and conditioned in their head of like, these are acceptable emotions, these are not. And so you will do everything in your power to take those bad emotions and hide them and cover them up with something that's more acceptable for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely agree.
Love it. Love it. So how did the Akashic records and tarot come into your life for this?
So I had a little sort of, well, I say little, a very large tower moment in my life, where I just started questioning everything. It was very intense. And also because I'm quite like a heady person, I overthink and I overanalyze things. So for me, going through it, a lot of the beginning was a lot of thoughts and a lot of processing and a lot of, what am I doing? Do I want to do this? I can't have this, or can I have this? So it's kind of like that period of time. And then it's almost like what's it called? Like a light switch just flipped. And suddenly it was very like, for me it's always very what's the word? It's quite fast. Like if I want something or if I'm gonna change something, it tends to be pretty fast.
It happens.
Yeah, but this wasn't really, I didn't feel like I consciously made a decision in this, because consciously I was like, ooh, somewhere else. But just one day it just switched, and I switched, and I went from being someone who had very, very, very low self-confidence, self-worth, a lot of self-hatred, which did continue during my spiritual awakening. I'm not saying that's all gone away, but it's almost like there was a light. It's like someone lit a light at the end of the tunnel. Whereas I was like, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't have this, I can't have that. Just accept life as it is.
A flicker of hope.
You know, I had hope. Yeah, I had hopes and dreams set sort of inside of me, but I just always pushed them away. And I was like, no. I was like, it's too late when I was like 26. It was ridiculous looking back. But suddenly I was like, you know what? I want something better for myself. I want something better. And actually, the thing that switched that, thinking about it now, is that I stopped drinking alcohol because I was training for the London Marathon. So I got into the ballot for the London Marathon, which is almost impossible and never happens. My parents are marathon runners, and they would enter the ballot for years, and I entered it once and I got in, which means you don't have to raise thousands of pounds for a charity. You get to just run it, which is like, you know, I knew it was a sign, and I was just like, oh,
it was
and
the
I got the email, and I was
opportunity
like,
for
oh
you.
my God. Yeah, I was just like, oh no. I was like, oh my God, what have I done? And then I was just like, I've got to do it. So anyway, I trained with my dad. I stopped drinking alcohol, and I just had a clear head. And I was like, I've always been interested in wellness, health, mindfulness, but I just never let myself really go there because of the alcohol and socializing. So yeah, so I started exploring things, and then I started studying coaching, specifically life coaching. And I was networking in London. I was meeting all these different people. I'd hired a mentor. I was having kinesiology sessions. I just like threw myself into it. As someone who, like I said, had very little self-esteem, I would just I would find these events online, and I would just go to them. I would just turn out, I would just go on my own. I wouldn't even tell really anyone. I'd tell my boyfriend, and I didn't really tell anyone. And anyway, during that time, I just met so many people in a completely different world, in the health and wellness world, who care about, you know, what they eat and how they feel and their body. And I'd never really allowed myself to do that before, because I'd always been binge eating, binge drinking, you know, all of those things. So I was around this whole new environment, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I was just thriving in this environment. And then one day I was in my living room. I lived in a high-rise glass building in South London, which you can see the whole of London from the balcony. I was standing in my living room, and there's a voice just in my head just said, you're going to learn tarot. And I was like, okay. And then the you know, ego came in and was like, all right, when, how, should I go on the internet? How am I going to learn? Da, 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 you know? And then the voice said, you're going to find a teacher, and they're going to teach you, and it's going to happen very soon, and you don't need to worry about it. And I was just like, okay. And I think I just said to my boyfriend, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna learn tarot. And he was like, oh, okay, like how? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I'm gonna find a teacher. And he was like, okay. So anyway, very serendipitously, I went to this place which everything was going, don't go. The weather was really bad. It was really far away. It turned out that it wasn't really relevant to me, this event. But anyway, there's something inside of me was just like, not even knowing it was the tarot, was just like, oh no, it's okay. I'm gonna go. So I went, and that's where I met the lady who taught me how to read tarot. And she did some energy healings with me, and she said, like, I've never met anyone who's learned it so quickly. She was just like, you're just a natural. It's like, you've done this before in another life. And I was like, but I was like, am I ready? Can I do it? Like, all I wanted to do was read. I just wanted to read for people. And she was like, we've got to take this slowly. Like, we're going to do it bit by bit. Like, just give it some time. As soon as I learned the major arcana, I was like, can I at least give people readings with the major arcana. And she was like, okay. So I did readings with the major arcana, and then I learned the whole deck, and then I just was reading for people. And it all happened so perfectly with this whole network of people. And I was like, hey everyone, I've just learned this skill, tarot. Does anyone want to have a reading? Can I need to practice on people? You know, and so many people were like, yes, me. And I was just like, I just need your feedback, because I need to know, you know, if this resonates, what you think. And the feedback was just incredible, and I was just blown away. And then a couple of years later, again, I was pulled to another place. This time it's Bali. And I was supposed to go to a retreat, but it fell through. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go on my own. I'm not going to plan anything. I'm going to book like 2 nights of accommodation, and then I'm going to take it from there and just literally live in the present moment. Yeah. And that's where I was introduced to the Akashic Records at the yoga barn in Ubud during a Cosmic You course. So all about like spirit guides,
Love it.
Ayurvedic medicine, breath work, yoga. And then at the very end, they were like, so we're going to do an Akashic Records meditation. And I was like, what are the Akashic Records? And they were like, oh, it's just, you know, just this place where everything that's ever happened is stored. And I was like, what? There's a place? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, why has no one told me this? And then I was just, again, obsessed, hooked.
Yes.
And I just started reading again for people. And I didn't even really know what I was doing. But all I knew was, I was like, right, I'll open them. I know how to close them. I know, you know, what the do's and don'ts kind of a thing. So like, but it was very open. So I'd be like, what do you want to know? And then they'd be like, ask me a question. And then I'd find out where it came from, and I'd be describing people's childhood when obviously I'd never been in their childhood.
Well, you're
and
so
then they'd be
connected. I can
crying.
tell that. Like and that's why you were so good and natural at the tarot, and think like you have a connection to the Akasha, to the spirit realm naturally. You don't have to
and it's
work at it.
but it's so interesting, because it's like, to go from someone who had very, very low self-worth to someone who's just like literally doing something that most people, because I teach a lot of people, most people are like, but what if this happens, or what if that happens, or they'll learn and they won't necessarily pursue it. And I was just like, I don't know what it was inside of me, but I never felt like that. There were times when I was nervous, you know, because like someone's paying me money, I'm opening their records, I have no idea what's going to happen, what they're going to say, but I had this inner knowing. I was just like, yep, this is what it is, you know, like
fresh air too, if you think about it. Because I grew up a very heady overthinker, analyzer of everything, and when I work with Akasha, it's like I don't have to really think; it just comes through.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I'm like,
and it's not me. Yeah, it's not me deciding. It's me interpreting and taking what they're sharing with me, and that's so freeing, I guess.
I love it. So for people that are listening that don't know the Akashic Records, how would you explain the Akashic Records?
Yeah. So I would explain the Akashic Records as your energy field. I would say the Akashic Records are your energy field. They're a place that stores everything that's ever happened. So every single person, every single animal, every single planet, every living thing has their own Akashic records. And the records are a way for the brain to sort of conceptualize it. Is like a library. Yes. So you can go into this library and you can extract information from your past lives, from your present reality, from your future potentials. If you want to understand why something bothers you, why you go through certain patterns, why you get stuck in certain places, or I guess one of the main things that I focus on with my clients is life purpose, life direction. What did I come, you know, like according to the records anyway, like you come here to live your life, you know, it's not really like
you don't have a secret mission, like it's portrayed. Like really you came here, our creator came here to truly experience and live a full life. We get in our own way. But that's how we break down those limits and learn more about ourselves, because we put those conditions and limits and we live through and overcome them and make us evolve as soul.
Exactly. So it's almost like, well, it's almost like I'll open the book and show them what they really want to do, but they don't necessarily believe they can have.
Mm-hmm.
Or because a lot of the times, a lot of people who come and have readings with me and then will train with me, they are healers, they are energy workers, and they know it deep down, but they haven't allowed themselves to really acknowledge it or to face it, because it's scary, like you can get judged a lot. A lot of people won't
And it's
understand.
not as
You're stepping
acceptable.
away from security. It's not necessarily acceptable, And I deal with that myself on times when I'm like thinking like, oh God, like if someone asks me what I do and they're not into this at all, I'm like often say this to my boyfriend. I'm like, what should I say? Because I just don't feel comfortable giving them this magic when they have no interest in what it is at all. And so I'm always like, I just work with energy, or I'm like, I do sort of like spiritual intuitive work. Like I'll kind of like change it a little bit because
Well, some people
I
aren't in the
don't want
space
to.
to receive like what it
Yeah, and
actually
I
truly
don't want
means.
to go through the whole explanation of what the Akashic records are when I can see on their face that they're just like, what the hell is she
And it's coming
talking
more of not a
about?
discernment, a judgment. No, I get that because I came. My story is I was a registered nurse. Like I have my
Yeah,
bachelor's in nursing, and I knew that I wanted to be in the healing profession. To say like I wanted to make a difference and truly help people heal. And I shifted to what I'm doing now. And a lot of people think I'm absolutely crazy. They're like,
yeah,
what are you doing? What? Like because it's a
yeah,
different form. And I'm like, you don't understand. Like I feel now like I'm like a healer, like on steroids for lack of a better word. Like I don't have the golden handcuffs anymore. Like I can help you find root causes. I can help you look from all different
yeah,
aspects of your being versus just what policy tells me that I have to feed you. Like, no,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
gonna get back to you because at the end of the day, like I am not healing you. You are healing you. I am the facilitator. I am holding the
yeah,
space for you to go on the journey to find out what you truly need. I can give you
yeah,
feedback and advice or whatever, but at the end of the day, you're the one that gets to take in what's truth or not. And that's the thing, like, for
yeah,
me, like empowering, like you don't need an outside source telling you what to do. You
yeah,
need answers are all inside. You just need somebody to be able to
yeah,
space for you to be able to find it and give you that's permission, but is you
yeah,
giving permission? Because once again, we are projecting that energy out, and that's normally
yeah,
when I come into the picture is when people are like, I just never had somebody love me and care so much about me and hold that space for me. And I said, you don't understand though. This is you. I'm a projection
yeah,
of you of what
yeah.
you are calling for to get to your next level. Like that's all it is.
Yeah, and why I love channeling the Akashic records so much is that I'm channeling their energy field. So I'm telling them, I'm just accessing what they can access, but they just don't believe they can access it right now.
Yes, absolutely. And then the common thing, just so that we clear that up, the Akashic records are not going to tell you what to do. They're not going to give you
No,
like,
people
and a
get
lot of
really
people are
bummed
like,
out by that.
do I need to do
They're
this?
like,
Or
so what do
what
I
do I do
so what do I do
next?
now? And I'm like, okay, let me ask them. And to be fair though, with my readings, I do get quite a lot of, I don't know why, but this is the way they show. I do get quite a lot of practical
Yep.
things. And a lot of the times they've given a lot of very good business advice. Um, but then they don't tell you everything. It's
And it's
like they'll
yours to
give,
do and interpret. Like they don't give
yeah,
you like your exact layout, whatever. Like
yeah.
it's for you to take and really like a lot of times the things I'm saying I don't even really necessarily make sense to me because it's parts of them that I don't even know.
I know. Yes, thank you for
But then
saying
as
that
soon
because
as
that's
they
my
hear it,
life.
they hit home and they're like, "Oh my gosh, how did you know that?" Like I haven't even
Yeah.
told anyone about
Yeah.
this.
And
And
then I'm
so I'm
like, because
thinking,
I'm in your record.
and this is the path I want to go on. And it's just so confirmation. Like, how did you even know about that? And I was like, I'm just like, once again, I am
Yeah.
the vessel. Like, this is just your
Yeah.
energy coming back and speaking to
I
you.
know. It's so funny. And I'm always like, does this resonate? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, okay, cool. Because I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm literally channeling the
I'm not
information. So
trying. This
you've
is
got
what
to tell me.
it
Yeah. I had a reading the other day, and the woman I was reading for, she thought that like she wasn't allowed to say anything, and that I had to just like almost like not in a negative way, but like it's like I was performing and then she would take it without giving me a clue. And I was just like, no, like that's not how it
You
works.
guided.
It's like it's a two-way like
It's
I
an
always describe
interactive
it to
experience.
people as like it's very casual and conversational. And if the more you give me, the more I'm going to get. It's not I'm not predicting things. I'm not trying to wow you, you know.
Yeah,
It's like it's and I think the reason that I love it so much is just I just love to go deep. Like I'm just not a
me too.
surface level person. So I'm just
Scorpio
like,
here.
let's go down. Let's go deep down. I'm like, let's do it. And I'm like, let's see what's there. Because and actually, so as you know, but obviously the listeners won't know, I've been doing a liquid fast. And usually when I do that, I don't work because I like to reserve my energy and I always tell myself that I can't work. But this time it just happened that I did actually work and I worked quite a bit. But it was like a change inside of me anyway, because I kept getting the messages of like, oh, okay, no, actually you're going to channel way better now.
You're clear
And I
vessel.
did. Yeah. And some past lives that came through, I don't know if you can relate to this, but sometimes when I channel and I pass information through and it's like something so spot on, or the person is like, I don't know. One example is like one reading I had. This is very at the beginning actually, and I went into a past life, and she was like, "That's the dream I have every single night," and I was just like, "Oh my god!" And sometimes I just don't even know what to do with it myself because I'm just like, it's so like wow, mind blowing sometimes, and we're just like vibrating as we're on the call, and we're just like laughing or we're crying or we're just like shocked, and
And sometimes it's not
yeah,
about doing anything. It's just allowing to acknowledge and saying, yep, okay, I accept that that was in my energy field, whether it was my past life or generational. Like this is just something that comes to my awareness. So then I can know, I can love, and I could accept and move on. Like saying, okay,
yeah,
I get to break that pattern now because I get to choose how I'm moving forward. My past
yeah,
doesn't get to define me. My future doesn't get to define me. I get to define me in this here and now moment. And that's another thing I
yeah,
always say when I'm working with Akashic Records, they're like, tell me my future pretty much is like sometimes the vibe. And I'm like, you don't realize there's infinite timelines.
yeah.
And
Infinite
you can choose.
potential.
No one's going to tell you the future because they can tell you it, and you can, just knowing it, you can decide to change it.
Yeah, I know, right? And that's what I always say to people. I'm like, the future is like the past and present, but the future is potential because the future doesn't exist. It's almost like every single second that you're going down a different timeline because there's unlimited amounts of timelines, and you can consciously choose what timelines you go down, and but you're not going to be conscious all the time,
Yeah,
and there's
it's
things that
every
are going to
choice you
happen
make.
externally.
Like that's how I explain it. It's like almost like a interstate or a highway. Like every choice you make is
Yeah,
like whether you go this way or you take a right or you take a
yeah,
left. Like it still goes on in some dimension of like the opposite
yeah,
choice. Like so, no matter what, I mean, your life could be completely different. But in the end, like your true intentions, and this is how intentions work. Like whatever your intention is, it's gonna come to fruition. It's just may look different in different ways. Whatever
yeah,
choice you make, it's still coming through in the long run. It's just a matter of like,
yeah,
do you get there faster? Do you get there slower? Do you learn these
yeah,
lessons along the way, or do you feel that you made this choice and this choice is aligning to you, so now you're going down this way to get to the same place?
yeah. I find a lot with my readings as well, which what just naturally happens is I'll often get a very high timeline for the person, like a very highest potential timeline. And, always again telling the person, this is just potential, it's just potential, anything can change. You still have your input, and, like this is just something you can almost like have a fishing line and throw it towards, and then you can guide yourself to that. But it just happens that I don't know if you have like a pattern with the people who come, or like a similarity. I often get people who are healers or who are meant to read the Akashic records
Yeah.
or who are meant to be guides or they're starseeds. And it's so incredible because I'll get to go on this journey with them from being, again, very low in confidence and not believing that they can do it. And I'm just like, trust me, I've been there.
Yes.
I know. And every single person who's like, but will I be able to do it? Can I open the records? And I'm like, all you have to do is want to do it, because
Yes.
not
The
barely
records are
anyone wants to
actually
do it.
available to anyone. Like that's what people like. This
Yes,
is not
but
something
like
that's
no one really wants to do it.
yeah, it's not something
But if
that's
you
like
do,
separate outside of you. Anyone can
no,
tap into it because it's your space, it's
exactly.
your energy. It's your
Yeah,
story. It's your in
yeah,
like religion, they call it the book of life. Like it's your
yes,
chapters. So why
yeah,
wouldn't you have access to your
yeah,
chapters? In the Akashic records, it's the most loving frequency you'll ever be in. And one thing that you'll learn, like if you're not supposed to know it in that moment and like agreement, they're not going to tell you anyways.
they're not
Like,
going to
I don't
tell
know
you
about you, but like a
exactly.
lot of the times, like they're very humorous in the way that they present
Yes,
information.
yes, all
It's
the
kind of like,
time.
they're like,
Yeah, and sometimes like I'll go in there and I get nothing, and they're like, "Get out of here! Like you've been in here too much, or like go live your life, or go." Like I remember when I was in like the depths of a depressive period in my life, and I went into my Akashic records, and they said to me, and I literally wrote this down: live a little. Oh, what was it? Less stress, live a little. Oh, hang on a minute, live a little. It was something along the lines of live a little, or less stress, live a little, have more fun. And it was something along those lines, and it hit me because it's my records, right?
yep.
And it's anyone else could have got that, and they'd be like, it doesn't
Okay,
matter.
cool.
But
Yeah.
it was me reading my own records, and it like struck a chord, and I was like, oh my god! I realized that my outlook on life was so serious because my depression was so bad that I wasn't having any fun.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't living my life, and I was so serious. And what I was putting out is what I was getting back, and that in itself just elevated me massively,
Yeah.
and almost was
You need
the
more play
one
and
thing that
presence.
brought me out. Yeah, and then I wrote it. I used to have like a whiteboard in this room, and I wrote it on the whiteboard, and I had it on a sticky note like here on the wall, so I could just keep looking at it. And I was like, yes, yes, have more fun, live a little. All right, because I got so caught up in personal development, spiritual development, finding out about myself, healing myself, and learning all of these things to be the best version of myself. I wasn't even having
Well,
a
then your
human
energy is in the
experience.
future. Like that's the thing that people
Yeah,
don't realize. Like you can go down the rabbit hole and focus so much on the past and healing the past where all your energy is going that way, or
yeah,
you can be focused so far on the future that your energy that way. But our energy is meant to be in the here and the now. You can go
yeah,
back and work on things, but you come back to the present. Like you have to be able to
yeah,
come back into the present after doing that work. And that's like a sacred part
yeah,
of the journey is learning.
yeah,
Like we're not meant
yeah,
to, like the past already happened. Like we're not meant to live there. We're meant to
yeah,
take the lessons and use them and make choices which are aligned to us in the now.
yeah,
And yes, it's not
yeah,
have like idea of our potential and direction, but just that, like you hold the vision, you don't sit in the vision and not move towards it because you're
yeah.
in
But a
the
lot of people do that.
yeah.
Yeah,
And they're like, I don't
yeah,
understand why I'm not
and
manifesting this. Like, why is it not here?
yeah,
Well, you have to anchor that vision into the present. That's the big
yeah,
key point. Like, you can't just think it and it shall be here because I say so without anchoring it. Because if you truly wanted it, you'd anchor it now and start making those
yeah,
aligned action steps. And yes, you're going to have resistance because it's something new and different, and you have to calibrate your energy to have it. Otherwise, it would already be here.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. And yeah, a lot of people don't want to do the work, or don't even realize that they don't want to do the work, because it is energy. It takes a lot of energy. And I always say to people, the only way that I do the readings is like, okay, if you want to go into the past, or you want to look at a past life, we're only looking at a life that's affecting you in a positive or a negative way today. And that's why we look at it, so that you can understand yourself better in the here and now. And the same with the future. It's like, all right, well, let's look into the future and get a vision. But what do you need to do right now to get there? Because that's all that matters. All that
Yeah,
matters
it's
is what
I'm
you're
not
doing
giving you
right
a
here, right now. Otherwise, you're
detailed
not going to get it.
yeah. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to give you a detailed play, but like, this is not a movie. Like, can I get that information? Probably. But a lot of the times the guides will say, no, you don't
Yeah.
need to know all the ins and outs. Like, this is the information you
Yeah.
need to
And
know
they need to
to
figure it
utilize.
out themselves, right? Because that's
Yeah.
the part of the
And
freaking journey. Like, that's why
otherwise,
we're
if you were meant to
here.
remember it all, you would remember it all. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, some of
Yeah.
that is not meant to be taken forward. And intuitively, you already learned whatever you needed to learn. There's something that's still like dissonant, like whether you call it karma or whatever you want to call it, that you get to heal and move forward. And that's generational healing, ancestral healing, past life healing. To me, is like you're still holding
Yeah.
this energy frequency in your body, which is causing a disconnect to your actual soul frequency of what you desire. And so once we start accepting and loving and understanding, for me, because that's what this whole journey is a deeper understanding of yourself and everything around you. Like
Yeah.
that is what the journey is about. Is the more you understand yourself, the
Yeah.
more self-expressed you can be, the more you can create, the more you can be in life, and without the pressure and things
Yeah.
like that. And that's what the journey is.
Yeah.
There's no like
Yeah.
crazy one path and I'm gonna fall off of it and fail. Like that's what people like don't understand. Like, oh, I was destined to do
Yeah.
this. And I'm like, no, you create your own destiny. You don't understand that. Like
Yeah.
you choose your
Yeah.
destiny. And if that isn't resonating anymore, you probably jump timelines and that's not where you're meant to be anyways.
Yeah.
Trust yourself.
Yeah.
But we're programmed not to trust ourselves. That's the big issue.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And I think that's what really helped me completely radically transform my whole life, was working with the Akashic records, was working in the present moment, was working with my intuition, was living, was taking or receiving higher dimensional guidance, but then also integrating it and making my own choices. And sometimes I would get the most profound information, but I didn't do anything with it sometimes because I was like, oh, I'm a little bit tired, I'll come back to that,
And
because
you're not in
I
the
still have
space
my
to
own
do it.
free will.
And that's okay. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing is like it's just you take what resonates. That's what I always say. Like I'm going to channel what
Yeah.
comes through, but at the end of the day, like you just like our brain does, it only takes in so much information. It gets billions of bits of data, but it only takes in a small chunk of that, which is
Yeah.
serving them right now, so you don't get overwhelmed. Like whatever
Yeah.
resonates to you the most, take action and really like sit with it. And then when it feels right, take action on that. And the rest, if it's meant to be, it will come keep circling back up. It's not
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I have to remember everything they said. Like no, like that's not how life works.
Yeah.
If it's meant to be,
Yeah.
you'll,
Or like, I have to
you'll
do
get
it
many
all right
times.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I was with my friend the other day and we were shopping in this like esoteric, witchy bookstores in London. And every time I go in, I'm like, I want to buy quite a lot. And then I have to keep reminding myself that the books are still going to be here and I can buy it in a week or two or a year or whatever. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, you're right.
We're programmed in
It's
that
cool. I don't need to
scarcity
get it
lack.
right now.
Like we're
Yeah.
like, okay, it's either now or never.
Yeah.
Like that
Now or
program.
never.
Like no, I do not have to climb the mountain in 1 feet. Like
Yeah. 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 It's so funny. And and I think also what's really fun working with, from my experience of working with the Akashic records, but it's not just about the Akashic records, because I'm working with my higher self, I'm connected more with source, I channel light beings, I do mediumship, I go into people's past lives. There's all things, it's not just like, oh my god, everything's about the Akashic records, because the Akashic records is everything anyway. So
yep.
it's like doing that and learning all of this stuff that's just goes against everything that we've learned
Yes.
or been taught. And I'm just like, oh my god, I feel like this rebellious like human being. Like I'm just like, cool, that's not real, I don't have to follow that. Oh my gosh, that doesn't bother me anymore. And it's just like a game. It's like a game, the game of life.
Yes.
And I just feel like in a way it's also very energizing, to the point where you don't age like most people age, because most people are avoiding that.
Yeah,
most people are just bogged down with things that they think are important but actually aren't, but don't know, oh, can I actually leave this job? Could I end this relationship? Should I do this? What are other people going to think? They don't trust themselves, so they don't want to make any big decisions. So it's fun to work with energy and magic and that kind of stuff to literally carve out your own path that is not the same as everyone else's.
Yes. Well, and for me,
Yeah.
like, I don't want to be pushed into the mold. Like, I want to be the marble that gets carved and my beautiful essence gets to be shown. Like, that's that at the end of the day, that's what I want. I don't want to look like everything around me, because if I was meant to look like everything around me, I wouldn't have been designed the exact way I am. We are all unique. We all have our own unique soul frequency here to do and express and be like that. That's why we are here, and really trusting myself and allowing myself to be that and to be different, and really anchoring in, like, to be different is exactly what I'm meant to be. Like, why am I trying to fit in when I am born to stand out and shake? I'm supposed to shake the foundations of everything. That's who I am.
Yeah. I love that. Yes.
But yeah, so what would you say, just a little bit on that? Like, so say I'm interested in the Akashic records and I've never done it before. What is the next step? Like, where would they learn how to kind of tap into their records or things like that? What would your recommendation be if that's something interesting them?
So if someone is interested in the Akashic records, I would recommend, it depends, because if someone's just kind of like, oh, I'm just kind of interested in learning a little bit about it, then, you know, you can Google it. There's stuff on Gaia. There is, you know, you can follow accounts who talk about it. But if you're like someone who's like, no, I feel like, well, I'm like, it's like a magnet, I'm being drawn towards it, then I would say to learn it, but to learn it with someone who, instead of, so I guess like this is my way of doing things, because this is the way I've done it myself. But I've also done it in, okay, so let me try and explain this. So with tarot, I learned through a teacher. With the Akashic records, I taught myself. Now, the reason that I taught myself with the Akashic records, I did have a mentor who explained to me what it was, who had trained herself. And then later on, I did training myself.
Yep.
But I'd been reading for years before I did the training, and I just did the training to meet other Akashic records readers, because I was like, where's the other people? Like, let's talk about how crazy this is. But learning from a teacher, if you're someone who's like, you know what, like, I want to learn this, I want to learn this, I want to feel confident about this, it's a different energy than going on the internet and researching it, because I've done that with other things, human design, astrology, all kinds of things. I've researched on the internet, and it can be confusing because it's not all real, the information that's on there.
And it's up to interpretation. Like, I feel with the Akashic records, like, there's many different ways to enter the Akashic records, many different like things you can get. And so one person's interpretation in the way they like, not attach, the way they enter, and what they do and their purpose may be different than what you are. So it's like using those people as a guide, but also making it your own. That's every healing modality for me is like, I learn the framework, but I get to fill the framework.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
And I get to take what resonates to me and play and shift, like, just like a little kid, like, come with that curious mindset. And like, if you are, for me, like, if you're interested in that, find somebody and book a reading and see, feel the
100%.
what it is. And so you can experience firsthand, and you'll know, like, something inside of you will be like, I want to learn more about this. Like, there's more to this. Like, you'll feel that calling.
Yeah. And you just have to trust yourself. Yeah. Like, when it's not, because don't force yourself into something when, just because that's more of like a desperation. So like, I'm the exact same. If I want to do something, I really have to catch myself, because sometimes I'll try and push myself into something because I think that I want it, or I think it's going to be a good thing.
This is what somebody
wants.
There's
not
from
like
me.
I'm like, this will make me better or cooler, or like whatever it is. But when it's inside of me and I'm like, whoa, I can't stop thinking about. I remember when I first studied coaching, I was dreaming about it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was visualizing it, and it happened so quickly, obviously, because I was doing all of those things. But then I was like, well, but even so, I studied coaching, but I don't call myself a coach. That was just a pathway into this. And I had to coach myself
first. It's what was acceptable to you at the time to open the door into other things that where you're actually going. And that's what I've learned in my journey. It's like, okay, so this is my nursing, this is my normal. So like my energy form, I do pranic energy. Like that's how I started. And it has a lot of protocols and things that are similar to nursing, but in the energy world. And so like that, and then, so that clicked to me because it was like speaking the same language of a different aspect. And so like, then I went in there and then I played more and then I learned about quantum energy. Like, and I went in. So like my form of energy healing, I wouldn't even say is one specific. I channel different things and I do, you know what I mean? Like it's my own thing.
Yeah. Oh,
On
100%.
a lineage, you know what I mean? Of training things, multiple, but I love learning. Like I'm a chronic learner.
Yeah, same.
I want to learn all the pieces. And it's not for me, it's like, this is the absolute truth. It's like somebody else's perspective. So let me take a situation and look at, and that's what I do. Like, here's the situation. Let me look at all different angles. And then I decide what feels best for me and how I want to move forward.
Yeah, 100%.
The same thing in my modules.
Yeah. And that's why I would say if someone's kind of like just dipping their toe in, you know, go on the internet, watch Gaia, watch YouTube, look at people's accounts and learn from an array of people, have a reading. But someone who's like maybe done that, or it's just, I get a lot of people that come to me and they're like, I don't know what this is, but I want a reading with you. And I'm like, sweet, let's do this. They're like,
you'll
I've never heard of it before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
you're like, I don't know anything about it, but that's how shamanic breathwork came for me. I actually was signing up to do a different program, went to the website, shamanic breathwork website came up. And to me, I don't believe in any, like, I don't believe like, oh, accident, whatever. Like there's always a reason. And so for me, I was like, okay, I don't know anything about this. Like, I kind of glanced at it and I'm like, but there's a reason it came to me and the reason why I need to do it. And I'm like, okay, well, I have the money that I was going to pay for this program. I'm going to pay for this program.
This one.
This is what's called my soul source, this divine orchestration created this. And that was the best thing that could ever happen. Like, because that is something, that's one of my deepest tools that I use to connect back with myself, with my being, and helped me get through a lot of different obstacles along my journey. And I get to share that with other people, but that's the same thing. So you'll like, when it comes to Akashic, like you'll know, like there's something inside of you when you're ready. It chooses you. That's what I always say. It chooses you.
Yeah, that's what I say. I always say that about tarot. You don't choose tarot, tarot chooses you. And it's the same with the Akashic records. It's the same with any of them. You know, shadow work, shamanic breath work, kundalini, whatever it is. And you know, I've gone through different things. I've studied crystals. I used to have a crystal business. I did the coaching, and you know, I've gone through different things. And at the time, again, being like heady, I've been like, right, I'm going to be a coach because I studied coaching. I spent a lot of money on this. Okay. And then it came through, oh, actually, I think I'm going to be a tarot reader. Oh, but I spent all that money on coaching. It's okay. It's a stepping stone, and people get caught up and then they'll stay somewhere. Oh, I've been here a while, or oh, I'm due a bonus, or I'm going to get promoted. And they're all just like trapped. It's like, what does that really mean? Do you really want that?
Yeah, that's me. I'm breaking out of those things. I did 3.5 years of pre-med. I have 1 semester left and I could have got my pre-med degree. And I said, nope, this is not what I want to do anymore. I don't want to go to med school anymore. I don't want to be like next. Like there's something deeper here. I am so grateful for the education that I got, but then I switched to nursing. And then now I have a bachelor's in nursing, and I'm really not practicing as a typical, quote unquote, you can't see me quoting here, nurse. Everything that I've learned and gathered along the way is to get me where I am, and the situation, knowledge base, and the wisdom that gets to come through, that I understand the body better than most people because I've gone through all of this.
Yeah, exactly.
Body as well as the energetical. Like that's how I have those components that make me me. And why people come to me, because I have this certain, it's almost like the elixirs, like the certain components in there that is just the right frequency for the right people.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Love that. I wanted to share, before we wrap it up, I wanted you to talk about your event coming up, that you're coming into the US and you're going to be in Collinsworth, New Jersey. So if anyone's in that area, it's close to Philly, share about that.
Yes. Okay. So I'm very excited. I'm coming to America. As people who are listening can tell, I'm live in England. I'm British. I have a British accent. So I'm coming to America. And my friend Danielle Massey, who is the shadow work queen, her and I are doing a luxury day retreat. It's called the Dark Feminine Rising. And it's going to be on the spring equinox, so the 20th of March, 2023. So it's like 20. I know you guys in America, you do your dates differently, but either way, it's like 203, 2023, or 323,
Yeah, we do the month
2023. You know, it's like
date
the
year.
numerology,
Yep.
the numbers.
Yep.
It's like twos and threes. So we're super excited about that. And it's going to be a mix of energy work, Akashic records, shadow work, Kundalini, and channeled guidance. So it's meant to be a complete ego death and rebirth into your dark goddess. So get ready to step into your most abundant season yet. And it's very exciting. So yeah, if anyone can get to Collingswood in New Jersey near Philly on the 20th of March, I'd love to meet them.
Yes, come meet her. This is going to be a potent event because both
It
of
is.
these guidance, these teachers are amazing people, and they have so much
Thank
wisdom.
you.
And I can feel
Yeah, Danielle is
already.
yeah, Danielle is just, yeah, she is so powerful, and her and I came together, and we've just been so we had a podcast together called Embrace Your Light. We've done events together. You know, I've taken her shadow working courses. She has regular Akashic Records readings with me. Her book came through the Akashic Records. It's just like a, you know, like a
Perfect pair.
sisterly bond that's just, and we've never met each other in the flesh.
I love it. So this is
Been 3
even
years.
more potent then, that you're physically
Yeah,
going to be
I
uniting for the first
know.
time, and then you get to
Yeah,
this beautiful experience for other people.
yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love
and
it.
a lot of the people who will be there are people who've either had readings or trained with me and also trained with Danielle. So a lot of the people, we've already sold like 7 tickets or something. We only released it like a day or two ago, because a lot of the people that are coming have worked with us online,
Yes.
and they're going to get to work with us together in person. So it's going to be really fun.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And
yeah, so we'll link
obviously, if
that.
anyone wants to book in a reading or to learn the art of the Akashic
Yes.
Records themselves, that's what I do pretty much. Is
Come into her world. Like we're gonna link
yeah.
all the links in here to get you
Yay.
connected, so you can experience more of her magic, because she's amazing. I
Yay.
am very blessed to
Thank
have her in my
you.
life. So
Oh, and I feel the same. I feel like when you really connect with someone, you can feel when it's like on that kind of a more
yeah,
of a soul level, you know?
it's like the soul knows
Yeah.
it's not the brain processing. It's like,
Yeah.
yep, this is a
Yeah.
kindred spirit. This is
Yeah.
where we can build each other and catapult each other. Like I love it. Any
Yeah.
last messages you want to leave with the listeners before we wrap it up today?
I feel like the main things, because I do have my Akashic Records open. I always open my records before I do like a podcast or a live or anything where I'm speaking, because I always like to channel. I feel like the strong message that's coming through is like, even if you've done something for a while, say you've had a job or you've studied something, like it's okay to change. Like it's okay. You don't have to, that's not who you are. Like your identity isn't like
It's
you, a
fluid.
nurse or a medical student or a teacher or something. Like that's not who you are. And I remember I've been there, and you've been there, where we've fought that and had this resistance and been like, this is, because it's like that saying, you know, like when people like are like, well, who are you? And they're like, well, they say their name, and it's like, well, you're not your name. And they say their job, and they're like, you're not your job. And they say their age, you're not your age.
Yeah.
Say your sex, or you're a mother, or you're a wife, or whatever. And
All
it's
the
like, you're not
roles.
any of those things, you know? So it's like,
Who are you when you
you
strip
could,
all the labels, is what I say. Like when you strip
yeah,
all those labels off, what is left? Because if you
yeah,
tie your identity too much into those labels, you go through this
yeah.
mourning loss. Like I did that when I left my typical RN position. And then I was like,
Mm-hmm,
oh my gosh, all my work, like all my passion, like I'm no longer a nurse. And then I had to stop myself and I
mm-hmm,
said, what makes me a nurse? having a position in a clinic doesn't make me a nurse.
Like wearing the
Still a
uniform,
nurse.
having the
Yeah.
certification, going
Yeah.
there on the day, like, is that what makes, it's like playing a role,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I'm like, it's still a part of me and it will always be a part of me. No one can ever take that away, but that's not all of who I am. That is just an aspect of who I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am so
So
much more than one thing.
exactly. So if anyone is kind of like listening to this and thinking, yeah, but it's easy for you, like, trust us. We've been through, you know, the difficult times and the imposter syndrome and stepping outside your comfort zone and trusting in the unknown and surrendering, like all of that stuff is not glamorous. It's not fun. It's not, well, sometimes it's fun, but it's not like Instagram filter,
Yeah.
you know.
It's not the
I was
highlight
thinking
reel.
about this morning. Yeah. I was thinking about this morning, and like, I know a lot of people who are very successful. I read for people who are very successful, and what they put out there on their social medias, you know, is the highlight, and people, and they admit that themselves, you know. But what we take from it is we don't see them stressing when they wake up in the morning and they don't want to do it, when they are exhausted for because they've overdone it, or when they spend a day on the sofa and then they beat themselves up over it, calling themselves lazy. Like, we don't see that, and often people talk about that. I often talk about that, but it's almost like it's in one ear and out the other. It's like we
You
still
don't
are
feel it the
messy.
same way. Yeah. Like you don't understand,
Yeah,
like no matter what level you are in your healing journey, it's not a hierarchy. You still have the
yeah,
same day-to-day
and that
struggle.
doesn't
We're
go
human
away.
beings. We're still
You
human
can't
beings.
think
It's just
like,
we have
yeah,
the tool set, the wisdom, the awareness to utilize what we know to be able to do. But there's times where I'm like, I just am not feeling it. I am in a funk and I'm going to sit in
yeah,
my bed and I'm going to eat my ice
yeah,
cream and watch Netflix.
yeah,
I'm not going
yeah,
to hold guilt for it because that is what I'm
yeah,
being called for right now.
yeah, because you can feel it, right? And I'm like, and that's why I'm always assessing it. I'm like, am I doing this because I'm running away from something, or am I doing this because I really want to do this, and I can do this if I want to do this? And I'm like, I know I really want to do this, and I'm like, all right, cool, let's cancel that,
Yeah.
let's do this, let's do that, and let's just like have a day to recharge. And yeah, it's complicated because there's so much messaging, and you know, there could be something I say that could be taken the wrong way. I often get I've had people DM me and comment on things and be like, you know, potentially like toxic positivity is what they're trying to say, and I'm like, it's such a fine line at times, and it's like I can see where you took that from this, but I'm gonna kind of
But that's
explain
their
myself a little bit,
projection.
but at the same time I don't have to,
Yeah.
because
You don't have to prove
like
yourself because it's
I
what their
can't.
interpretation is. They're dealing with their own toxic positivity of what's going on.
Yeah,
You can be a ray of sunshine and you can hold that, but you are not. Like if they look at that, you don't just share the high points. Like you're
yeah,
real and
exactly.
you're
And then
with
I'm like,
them. And
really,
anyone
like,
having
if
a
my,
conversation with that will
like,
know that.
yeah, exactly. And then I'm like, how did you take that from that? And then I'm like, it's not about me, it's not about that, it's their thing. And then I'm like, okay, cool. And then I'll just be like, all right, you know, the point is anyway, and I do really live by this now, is like, you're not for everyone, you're not going to be for everyone. And the fact that you're not for everyone means that you're actually being true to yourself, because
Yes.
you just can't, there's too many opinions, especially with the internet and everything like that.
You
There's
will
way
drive
too
yourself
many
crazy trying to
extremes,
please
and
everyone else.
yeah, yeah. And you know, kind of what we were saying earlier of, I was actually like, oh, this is like, before 6 months, a year ago, I'd have been very triggered, like, oh my god,
Mhm.
they're calling me out, oh my gosh, they're not getting my message
Absolutely.
right, oh my gosh, I must
There's
rectify this, oh
something
my
wrong with
gosh.
me. I must shift
Yeah,
something and really
yeah. And then
accept that it's not me. It's okay.
yeah, and this time I was like, oh, okay, I've kind of got a little bit of a hater, all right, this is
Yeah.
good, this is good.
That means you're doing something right though. I always
Yeah,
say that I am not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm
yeah,
somebody's damn best flavor. And that's what I'm going to be
yeah.
because those are the people that I'm here for.
Exactly. And the Akashic records and shamanic breathwork and this kind of stuff, it's not for everyone, and that's fine. I'm not trying to convert people. I'm not trying to, that's why I don't explain myself to people that I intuitively know don't
I'm
have the
not
space, the
forcing
capacity
my
for it.
my
Yeah,
views of
because
life
I
on
don't want to
anyone.
work with you anyway. I
Yeah.
don't want to prove myself. I don't need to do
I
that.
did
I'm
that enough in
like, the
my life.
people that, yeah, exactly. The people that come to me, they have to be ready and willing and open. And if not, I don't want to read for you. I don't want to work with you, because that's just going to be
They're not,
painful for
yeah,
both of us.
we need to be ready because that's what I always say. Like, I'm not a shallow person. Like, there's no, like, we go deep. We go
Yeah.
deep. I want to help you get to the core of the things instead of spiraling on the surface. We're going to go down and figure out what's actually going on so you can stop repeating and you can actually move forward the way you desire instead of being stuck in the loop. And
100%.
not everyone's ready to do that. And it's it's a little nerve-wracking, but at the same point, like that's what I always say, that paint the image of, like, it's like going in the shadows, but you have your best friend holding your hand.
Yeah.
And
That's a nice
shining the
one.
flashlight with you in those scary times. You're not alone. You have somebody holding you that's there to express and feel and say, hey, I'm feeling triggered and this is coming up. Or somebody just sitting there and allowing you to cry for the first time in years because you've never let anyone hold space like that for you to be able to truly feel and acknowledge how you're feeling.
Yeah.
Like, that's the stuff
and that in itself is so powerful.
Like, that's the thing. Like, that to me is what life's all about, is being able to be in a community and help somebody to really unlock the next part of them and be able to co-create this beautiful life, not suffer, not being down of the where we've been. Like, I've been in the muck. I will get in the muck
I've been there
with you. I'll come down and get in the muck with you, but I'm not doing it all myself. Like, I can't force you out of the muck. You got to do your part and we'll work together to get there.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I know we are like the lotuses coming out of the muck. Like, you're in the muck to help mold and shape and grow, and then you can turn into the most beautiful thing in the world if you allow yourself to.
Yeah. Wow, that's beautiful. I love that.
I'm a very imagery person. So.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'm literally seeing it.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on here today.
Thank you.
I know.
Oh my gosh, it's been so fun. Yeah, I hope so. And I really hope that if anyone listens and it resonates, then I would love to hear, because I know I kind of shared this on a story on my Instagram recently, or yesterday, and I was just saying how for such a long time I felt like very alone because I couldn't find people that are having like these kinds of conversations and just openly saying like issues with alcohol, issues with confidence, self-worth, whatever, and just having these conversations and hearing someone else like talk about it and then saying to that person like, oh my God, I resonate, or whatever it is. It's just like it's amazing. And I think that's one of the main reasons that I do it.
Absolutely. To know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
Even when you feel so alone, you're never alone.
Yeah, never. And that's helped me a lot. That's helped me so much because that's really sunk in now and I really get that now. So I have a lot of more grace for myself than thinking like, I'm doing this wrong. What's wrong with me? So yeah, if anyone's feeling like that, then just know that you don't need to feel like that.
Give yourself grace because you did what you could with what you knew at the time. Now you're learning and you see other things, and it's a slow progress. Now you can start incorporating a different way because you're opening to possibility. And that's what it's all about, is opening to possibility. So instead of being closed in this box where all I see is 4 walls around me and above me and below me, I cracked it open and I can see the light shining through. Like, I can see a different way. So I can push these walls out so I have breathing room and I can see what else is out there.
Yeah, I love that. Yay! Thank you. It's been an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Soul Revolution Tribe and being part of our soul family. If anything in this episode resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share your takeaways. You can find me on IG at Grow with Jackie B or on YouTube at Soul Revolution Tribe. I will see you next week for more soul conversations and medicine. Bye for now, and see you back soon.